Welcome to the Trade Up Podcast. I'm Lisa Brandt. Today, I'll get John Finan's take on some hot topics in the skilled trades. Why he partly disagrees with something Mike Holmes says was the biggest mistake in education, and what John thinks needs to be done in schools to open kids up to learning about the trades. Why so many young adults say they're considering getting into a trade over taking a corporate job. And some new stats out of the U.S. that show private equity firms are paying big bucks to acquire HVAC, electrical, and plumbing companies. John Finan says he's not surprised at all.
Unless you're in the business, you wouldn't really know. And for sure, for the last 5 years, I would say not a week goes by that I'm not reached out to by some group. And it's not always a private equity company, although that's quite common. They're the ones that have raised enough money to go up and buy businesses at the kind of scale that the industry is looking for. And if you think about why they would be doing this, investors are looking for, is Facebook, Google, Amazon, are they going to keep going up in value to the degree that somebody with lots of money would be happy with the returns on? And the answer is probably not. And they look for other industries. And we all have toilets, electrical panels, furnaces, and air conditioning in our house, and it all needs to be maintained. And they've slowly, I would say, they should have come to this realization a lot sooner, but they've come to the realization that the trades are a really niche industry and it's unconsolidated. And what I mean by that is that most operators are small business owners, much like myself, and smaller in a lot of cases, which means they're ripe for selling. And I'm 60, so I'm the youngest at 1964 of the baby boomers. And we've bought a number of businesses over the last 15 years, specifically because the owners that we talked to were 5 to 15 years older than me and ready to sell and retire. And I think the private equity people are looking at that and going, okay, the demographics are that the baby boomers, the business owners that have these companies have built them up. In a lot of cases, they're either too big for the family to operate. Like if you've got a business that's worth 7 or 8 figures, it would be unwise for the person that spent their entire life building that business to just hand the keys over to their children and say, just pay for the rest of my retirement, because there's so much money that private equity companies are paying. So it's not really a surprise at all. And I think it will continue and grow over the next 10 to 12 years as well.
There's a poll that was done to find out how many people would want to get into the stream to have this happen to them down the road. And of course, again, we're talking about the U.S., but we know that it connects to Canada in many ways as well. So this Harris poll found that 50% of Gen Z or Zs and 42% of millennials plan to go into some form of skilled trade because they believe that these jobs have more security in the future than corporate ones do. And of course, we're seeing corporations get slashed left, right, and center. Another bank today just got rid of a whole bunch of employees, and maybe they're right. And again, for the reasons you just stated, we all have toilets, we all have electrical.
Yeah, and there's a number of reasons it goes for it, but I just back up and I'd say, number one is 50% and 42% of millennials. Maybe you got to tell me again who a Gen Z is and who a millennial is, because honestly, and I think my daughter tells me that there's the alpha generation, which is maybe my grandson's age. So what age group are we talking about, Lisa?
Okay, so one thing I want to mention before we go on with that is that you say you're the tail end of the boomers, but they have found out now, or decided now, that we are not boomers anymore. We are Generation Jones, because I don't know if you identify as a boomer. I certainly don't, and I'm a couple years older than you, because we're really not of that age of war and all that kind of stuff. So the millennials were born between 1981 and 1996.
Okay, right.
Followed by, Generation Z or Z, 1997 to 2012.
Okay, got it.
And then Alpha follows them. So, yeah.
Okay, got it. So these are kids that some are just in school still, but most are out and looking for careers. So, my first thought is they're looking to get into the trades, Lisa, because they read our book and understood the presentation that we had. It's like, okay, this is, if John and Lisa say this is a good way to go, I'm just going to take their advice and get into the trades, and to heck with university.
We should have sold a lot more copies if that's the truth. But anyway,
I think a lot of people are passing it under the table for free, and that's the story I like to tell. So the long story is this. I think that there's two things at play. Number one is the escalation of post-secondary education costs and the debt associated with it is making it so that the younger generations are looking at it and going, this is crazy. This is absolutely insane. And to know that 90% of the jobs that you get when you're out of university are not worth the money that you paid to get there. And in a lot of cases, and this is a case at our company, I think at one time we were close to 30 people and we had nobody with a university degree. We have a couple now. And I will say that for the most part, completely unnecessary, because it's really, can you show up on time? Can you get the job done? Can you think properly? Can you push the envelope to grow our business? And I don't think there's anything that you would have learned at university that would have taught you that. I think it's just plain getting your hands dirty and rolling up your sleeves. So I think they're getting into that. And the other thing too is that as artificial intelligence is making its way into the workforce, it's pretty clear that some jobs are going to be redundant. What I think is true, though, is that you won't lose a job to AI. You'll lose a job to somebody that knows how to use AI. And that doesn't require going to university. In fact, I think you get into a big trouble if you use AI when you go to university. So you're supposed to do some thinking on your own. I think they're going, this is crazy to get myself out of the workforce for 4, 5, 6, 7 years and amass debt of X tens of thousands of dollars when you can go get a job that pays well now. Like dirty hands, clean money, I think is the saying for a lot of people. I think it's just starting to make sense, particularly with young men, because they want to get out, they want to start working. And what an easy way to compete in a job market when you're 18 years old. And your biggest strength is your ability to work physically hard. You don't have that as much when you're 45 or 50. So get that part of your career started when you've actually got that superhuman strength that you won't have when you're my age. And I think they're looking at it and going, I can transition into any of these jobs down the road if I want to.
Yeah, and write your own ticket, get your own future, sort it out which way you want to go. Mike Holmes wrote something on Facebook. He's always, of course, a force for promoting the trades. And it really kind of breaks his heart that trades classes are no longer in schools. Like, for example, when I was in high school, I realized the earth was still cooling from the Big Bang. I took welding and I did woodworking and all that kind of stuff. I was the first girl in our high school to do it. And it was a really big deal. Guys could take home ec. He says trades classes being out of schools was the biggest mistake ever made in education. I'm quoting him now where he says, I think exposing kids to the trades when they're young is so important. It's so rewarding working with your hands. Now, we know the Ontario government has created the FAST program to get kids out into a trade stream, but where are they going to know where they want to go? How are they going to get their hands on anything before they do that?
Well, let's just go back a second and talk about trades being taken out of school, because when I think back on my experience, and, I've shared this before, I had zero interest in the trades until I was into my early 20s and realized that after flunking out of university and having no job skills and student debt for the degree that I didn't get wasn't a good plan for the rest of my life. We started looking at options, and trades were an option. And I had not considered it. And not because I didn't know they were out there. In fact, I did. When I went to high school, I took in grade 9, there was a 3-semester, if you remember back when you used to do it that way. You did, I think I did electrical, woodworking, and machine shop. So I was exposed to all three. And I ended up going back in maybe grade 10 or 11 and taking a double major, whatever, you could have 2 70-minute periods of wood shop. And I did that specifically because I was a stupid 16-year-old that figured I could spend half the day at the wood shop doing nothing, which is exactly what I did. I was down the hallway at the end of the school where nobody paid any attention, and the teacher was less than, is a polite way to put it. And I did 0 projects in the entire year. I had no interest in it. So when I think about my experience, the introduction I had to the tradespeople, which were these 3 different trades teachers at my high school, there's not a role model there. Like, quite honestly, I would have said, I don't want to be in the trades specifically because the experience I had with these guys, not that they were bad guys, they just didn't inspire me. They looked like they were at the tail end of their career, just putting in time. So I don't know that Mike Holmes is exactly right, but he's not wrong in that we should be exposing young people to the trades, but doing it in a way that the machine shop, the electrical shop, the woodworking shop, there was an automotive shop. I got to think those are millions and millions of dollars to set up, and they're getting used a very small percentage of the time when you think about it. Whereas there are woodworking shops where people are working at them right now, and students just have to get there to do it. There's probably 100 different automotive shops in the city of London that if you want to get exposed to it and add in the brakes and mufflers and auto oil change places, there's probably 500 different opportunities for students. So I don't think the government should necessarily be spending our money on those facilities, but they should be facilitating the introduction to the trades in an environment where it really goes on and you really do get a chance to see the people that do the work so that you get exposed to somebody that you go, I want to be like that person. The 3 guys that taught woodshop at my high school, they weren't role models to anybody. In all fairness,
It's a class, right? Like it becomes another class. So you're not going to English, you're going to woodshop, and you've got an uninspired teacher and you're going for marks and...
Yeah. Yeah. And I was able to pass woodworking with doing nothing for the whole year. I mean, think about it. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And I think if the school board and government were looking at my experience and going, well, okay, we got guys like John that did this, and this is the experience that they had, and this is what they did with it. Can the program? I get it. But that's not maybe what should have happened. What should have happened is somebody should have said, let's just try to redefine what it needs to be so to inspire people to get into the trades.
Well, it's no wonder all the boys in woodworking and in the welding class hated me because I was a keener. For me, it was so exciting, and I'm using a lathe and I'm welding things, and this is so exciting. But being the first girl in my high school made it a completely different thing than just going to another class or something I do with my dad on the weekend or somebody I know does or whatever.
Yeah. You were showing some enthusiasm. They were there to do what I was there to do, which is absolutely nothing.
Right.
Yeah. We did have a couple of brothers that were in my woodworking shop, and they went gung-ho. They made everything. And of course, being a high school kid, we were 16. We poo-pooed what they were doing. Now, I don't remember their names. I don't remember anything about them. But my sense would be that those 2 guys went into business for themselves, and they are probably doing very, very well.
Right. Well, I still have the bowl I made, John, and we call it the sacred bowl. And if ever it gets moved around the house, angels must sing because this is the bowl that I made in high school. So
yeah, very good. And that's good to look back on those things and think, so maybe your experience was different than mine.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what? You didn't get into the trade. So I guess it inspired you to do something. But that certainly wasn't a path that, a lot of guys weren't thinking about it, but certainly girls at that age, I'm sure 10 years ago when you were in high school, nobody was thinking about that. So
10 years ago. Oh, go on.
I know you're the class of 2014, right? I saw that.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't even in this century. Thanks for listening to the Trade Up Podcast. Next time, we've got a young electrical apprentice who will tell us about the path she took to get where she is today, looking ahead to a great career and a limitless future. And you know what would make a great Christmas gift for the young person in your life? A copy of our book, Trade Up. Find out more about it at tradeupbook.ca. And if you have any questions or an idea for an upcoming guest, email John at tradeupbook.ca.